All right. Good morning, everybody. Let's just see what Psalm 61 has to say today. It's kind of short, but we'll look at it. Psalm 61, and again, it's a prayer of David, a cry to God for help. He says, "Hear my cry, O God, and attend my prayer. From the end of the earth I will cry to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I." First of all, he says, from the ends of the earth, I'm going to cry to you. And I think this is a description David's putting in there of how he felt. I think he's basically saying, I feel far away from you, God. I feel very far away from you. He says, but I'm going to keep crying out to you. I'm going to cry out to you from way over here where I'm at. The truth of the matter is I can think of just right off the top of my head, 2 seasons of my life. And when I say seasons, I mean, it wasn't like a day or two, right? It wasn't even like a month or two. It was a year or two or even longer. I can think of a couple periods in my life, in my ministry actually, where I felt like my prayers didn't get out of the room. I felt my prayers didn't get over the ceiling. It didn't feel like God heard me. It didn't feel like God saw me. It didn't feel like God knew what was going on in my heart. I just felt far, far, far away from God. I just felt alone. And, I think about the children of Israel and just throughout their history, 480 years in Egypt, crying out to God, when are you going to deliver us? 40 years in the wilderness, crying out to God, when are you going to bring us to the promised land? And even and then 70 years in Babylon, crying out to God, when are you going to deliver us? When are you going to let us go back home? And then even as we enter the New Testament, they're still oppressed by, we see them still as a people that are oppressed by the Romans. And so, I think really honestly and truthfully, I think God gives us or allows us these seasons of I call them wilderness seasons, like we're wandering in the wilderness. The reason he gives us these wilderness seasons is so that we will cry out to him. And because you see, the one thing that makes us turn to God is when we find ourselves where we have no control. That's the thing that gets us worse than anything, where we have no control. Our wisdom, our works, our skills, everything that we've got, we can't change the situation. And so we cry out to God. And that's why I think he says after that, he says, lead me to the rock that is higher than I am, because the rock was bigger than him. The mountain was bigger than him. It was a place of refuge. It was a place of defense. It was a place that he could hide. It was a place that couldn't be brought down. It was bigger than him and higher than him. He said, I need you, God, to take me to that place. And really, I need you, God, to be that place. And it's in God that we find that. And he says, for you have been a shelter for me, a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the shelter of your wings. He's saying, Lord, you have delivered me in the past. You have been my strong tower. You have been my shelter. He says, so I'm going to abide in your tabernacle forever. The tabernacle was in his mindset. That was the place where God lived. That was the place where God was, especially in that Holy of Holies. That was the very presence of God. The Ark of the Covenant in there was the throne of God. And he says, I'll trust in the shelter of your wings. So he says, I'm going to live in your tabernacle forever, and I'm going to trust in the shelter of your wings. I think this is a reference to those formed cherubim that were on top of the Ark of the Covenant, and their wings stretched out over the Ark towards each other. And he's just saying, I'm going to keep myself in your presence. I'm going to be where you are. And that's a good thought for us, that we just need to live in the presence of God. Wherever God is, that's where we need to be. We need to be close to him, and we need to be near to him. He says, for you, God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. You will prolong the king's life, his years as many generations. He's talking about himself. He shall abide before God forever. He just says, I'm going to live before you forever. And that needs to be the vow that we make. And he talks in here about vows, and he ends it saying, I'll sing praise to your name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. We often make God promises. God, if you'll do this, I'll do this. If you'll do this, I'll do this. But really, even when we come to Christ, we are making a commitment. And we're saying, you know what, Lord, I'm going to always trust in you. And I'm going to be committed to following Christ and to allowing you to have your way in my life. So we have made vows to God, and you know what? We need to live them out. And the way to live them out is to just live in his presence. Verse 7, he's saying but he's talking about himself. In essence, he's saying, I'll abide before God forever. You just need to live in God's presence forever. Live in that tabernacle. Ask God to hear your cry and to hear your prayer. Ask Him to lead you to the rock that's higher than Him, and make a commitment to always be in His presence. Psalm 61. Get out there in faith today. God bless you. Love you guys.